that's a plus also in a way for those that are earning US dollars that want to bring back money here and want to actually spend and want to actually enjoy Christmas here. For those also vacationing. So that means that they would swap their dollars to peso, places a larger demand on peso, could somehow stabilize prices for the short term. However, another thing to consider is the 75 basis points. Again, as what I've mentioned earlier, people are already anticipating that the US government, the US Fed, would raise rates by 75 basis points. That places a larger buying pressure on the dollar because, again, free money in government bonds denominated by US dollars. Hey guys, so by the time we're making this video, we've seen over the past few months the US dollar appreciate massively up against the peso. And if you go back a couple of less than 2 years ago when we were at the height of the lockdowns, we even saw the peso go to around 47, 48, somewhere around that period up against the dollar. But fast forward to where we are right now, almost 2 years after, there's a threat that it could actually go to 60. There's an assumed rate hike already in the US, about 75 basis points, which is a fancy word of just saying 0.75% increase in their bond rates. And as that increases, it places a larger demand on the dollar. And as you all know, greater demand, more buyers, and more buyers bring prices higher. So that being said, higher prices, greater demand for the dollar, that could bring actually weakness to the peso. And please do note this, that every time money gets printed, whatever is in circulation increases and it reduces the value of the dollars that people currently hold. So please do note this, just to make it super simple, more printing, lesser value. But here's the thing, globally, over the past few months, the dollar has appreciated massively up against almost every other currency in the planet. People are asking, if there's so much printing, shouldn't that devalue the dollar? But why is it higher? Easiest way to be able to answer that is this. Up against every other currency in the planet, the dollar is still a safe haven. People are buying the dollar with the notion that there's massive amounts of printing, but up against other currencies in the planet, the US economy is still the most stable. It's still the largest economy in the world. The US dollar is held by so many other governments and central banks. The US dollar is the most liquid. The US dollar is what's used by so many other countries, governments, and businesses in order for them to transact. And the fact that it's a safe haven, when times are uncertain, it places a greater demand for people to store their assets in the dollar. And that's why we also saw gold push up in price, primarily because gold also is a safe haven. It's a store of value. How will the Philippine peso fare up against the dollar? A couple of things. Short term, I believe that because December, there will be a lot of remittances. We're seeing the world start to open. What does that mean? A lot of people who were not able to go home in the Philippines over the past 2 years now have the ability to go home once again. Part of them going home, they're swapping whatever currency they have back to peso. And what's interesting also is that since the dollar is strong, they now have more buying power when they come home to the Philippines. Because before, $1,000 could get you around 48,000 worth. Now, $1,000 could get you about 58 to 59,000. It's extra spending power, which will incentivize them to actually not just maybe spend, but also maybe purchase and invest in other items that seemed a bit expensive before. So that's a plus also in a way for those that are earning US dollars that want to bring back money here and want to actually spend and want to actually enjoy Christmas here. For those also vacationing. So that means that they would swap their dollars to peso, places a larger demand on peso, could somehow stabilize prices for the short term. However, another thing to consider is the 75 basis points. Again, as what I've mentioned earlier, people are already anticipating that the US government, the US Fed, would raise rates by 75 basis points. That places a larger buying pressure on the dollar because, again, free money in government bonds denominated by US dollars. One way for the Banco Central, the government also, to somehow combat that is by raising interest rates here. When they raise interest rates here, it follows the curve somehow we become competitive also from an interest rate perspective, from a bond perspective, that why should I move my money into US dollars when I'm getting the same amount of rates here in the Philippines? So I think it will just be a tug-of-war on how the BSP will balance out the rate hikes that the Fed is actually trying to do. As they match that, please do note that they're not just gonna raise rates just for the sake of matching, because when they raise rates also, it will impact also the economy here because it becomes more expensive to borrow. Please do note also that the Philippines is one of the most expensive to borrow money here in the Philippines. Personal loan, housing loan, car loan, any form of credit, it's expensive. If you go to other countries, borrowing money for houses is not so expensive. You could get something about 1-2%. In other countries, it's even less than 1%, and then spread out for 20-30 years. That's something that's not available in the Philippines. So please remember that interest rates in the Philippines are already high to begin with because we're a developing country, because also there are attached risks also to borrowing to countries like ours. But above and beyond that, when they raise rates, of course, it will further place pressure to further increase rates also, meaning higher banking loans, higher personal loans, which actually will impact people who are in debt or plan to go into debt or plan to buy houses or plan to expand their business, because they will have to shoulder that higher interest rate. One of the things that you should watch out for in terms of what will cause the rate hikes to be tapered is if inflation in the US will somehow taper down, which a lot of people are predicting that it may take a while before that actually happens. It may take a while before inflation suddenly softens. But people are watching what other central banks in the world are doing in terms of raising rates or stopping the rate hikes. This is my opinion and my take into all of this, that they're not gonna do this forever. They will stop this and they will bring rates down, and they're gonna start QE again, and they're just gonna print once again. And when that happens, there's extra liquidity in the markets. When there's extra liquidity in the markets, suddenly you have an overflow of money again going into the stock market and going into the crypto market as well. And that's why, if you notice it, 2020, 2021, at the height of the largest lockdowns, you saw the stock market, the crypto market, the real estate market start to push up. It's not just because that there were interesting things attached to those asset classes, but because there was an excess in liquidity. Larger liquidity, more people putting it in almost the same asset class, more buyers just bring the prices up. So there, what should you watch out for the Philippine peso? How the Bangko Sentral will balance out the rate hikes also, how will they follow the curve, and how inflation is in the US, and how much rate hikes will the US government also do. And over the short term, OFW remittances. I've made tons of videos about that, about my take on the stock market, the macroeconomy, and how it also impacts crypto as well. If you want more of that, we have links down below. If you want to read my books, I've written 5 books about the stock market. They're all down below. It can be delivered to wherever you are in the world. If you stayed up until this point, appreciate it if you could like, share, subscribe. And if you want to go deeper in your learning towards investing, I have different seminars on Investments 101, which talks about crypto, NFTs, the stock market, the bond market, the REIT market, and so much more. Then I also have a technical and fundamental analysis course, which helps you also somehow decide what stock to buy and when to buy. So if you guys have any questions, put it down below. And that's it for now. Marvin Germo. I hope this video helps you trade well, trade strong, trade smart. See you all again soon, and God bless you all. Little Satosh, are you asleep? Did you enjoy that quick lecture? Yes? No? Oh, you slept. Wow. That's amazing. Oh, you're awake. So, galing mo, Little Satoshi. Nag-discuss ako, tulog ka. Tapos ngayon, kwentuhan na lang. You're awake. So,